Chapter 1421. The Tao Paragon's Attack. Rain poured harder. When it fell on the ground, it created pitter-patter sounds. There seemed to be some sort of pattern in that sound, causing those who had heard it for long to naturally feel as if they wanted to fall asleep. Different sounds could be heard when raindrops struck the roof or the wooden shed where Su Ming was. Those sounds fused together and turned into a song of the world. However, if a cultivator listened to it with their heart, they would not be able to hear much of a difference. Only when they listened to the quiet of midnight with a mortal heart would they be able to find just how pleasing this tune of nature was while they were dozing off. However, there were always other sounds that would disrupt the tune of the rain in the night. One such sounds reached the house while Su Ming was dozing off. "Boy, my memory is bad. Remember this. Tomorrow, go to the blacksmith to the east of the village and bring 2 dogs. If any thief drops by during the night and steals our axe, we'll be really unlucky." The old man's voice came from the house, traveled through the rain, and landed in Su Ming's ears while he was in the shed. Su Ming did not speak, but at that moment, a brilliant glint flashed swiftly in his eyes. He could feel a vague sense of danger, and he could hear the rain landing, but it did not land on the ground or any houses. Instead, it seemed to have landed in the air, as if there was some invisible barrier. "Someone's here." The brilliant glint in Su Ming's eyes slowly faded away, but killing intent bloomed in the depths of his eyes. Clearly, the people who had come did not want to cause trouble for the old man. After all, he was located in a place no one knew about. That meant that unless the strangers were just passing by, they had to have come in search of Su Ming. If those who sound 9 Tao spirit voices do not die, they will surely become great Tao paragons. Looks like these 2 phrases will be verified on me today. Su Ming's expression was one of calm. From the moment he let out the voice of his life matrix and made it his 9th Tao spirit voice, he knew that there would definitely be quite a number of cultivators who would want to kill him in ancient Zong, especially those from One Tao sect and Azura clan. One Tao sect, Azura clan. The cultivators from Azura clan still have morals. As for One Tao sect, if there comes a day when I become a great Tao paragon, I will definitely slaughter them and dye their sect with their blood. The killing intent in Su Ming's eyes was already shining with blood-red light. At that moment, a bolt of lightning sliced through the sky. Light instantly illuminated the ground to reveal a skinny figure levitating above the courtyard. It also revealed a rather plump cultivator who had, at some point in time, sat down cross-legged on the house's roof. At the instant the 2 figures appeared in the lightning, a loud, thunderous roar shook the skies and earth. "Third Prince, we've truly had a hard time searching for you." The skinny cultivator levitating above the courtyard smiled faintly. His body seemed to become a plane that covered the world from the rain, so no more droplets fell on the ground while he stood in midair. Su Ming had already walked out of the shed. Dressed in sackcloth, he coldly looked at the skinny cultivator, then cast another glance at the cultivator sitting on the roof. The 2 people gave Su Ming a feeling that he was facing against the great sect elders of 7 Moons sect. The 2 were clearly Tao paragons. The 7th level of Tao divinity realm allowed the cultivators to go from Tao spirit realm to Tao immortal realm, which made them Tao paragons. With one more step, they would become great Tao paragons who were revered by the world. However, the difficulty in taking that one step was so high that there were less than 30 people who had managed to reach that realm throughout the long history of ancient Zong. Those who sound 9 Tao spirit voices are bound to become great Tao paragons, but a pity. If you weren't the 3rd prince, then all sects and clans would definitely treat you like a treasure. A pity that you will not have the chance to become a great Tao paragon in your life. The skinny cultivator sighed softly. While in midair, he lifted his right hand swiftly and pushed in Su Ming's direction. Immediately, a pentagonal rune appeared above Su Ming and sank down swiftly. It let out thick waves of black smoke and looked like it wanted to turn into a huge hand to grab Su Ming. It might not have looked like there was anything extraordinary about it, but in truth, the rune had already locked the place around Su Ming. The sky and earth seemed to be locked down. Su Ming's expression remained the same. He formed a seal with his hands and swung his hand at the incoming pentagonal rune. A loud rumble shot up, and it sounded like the roar of thunder. A hint of derision appeared on the skinny cultivator's lips, but the next moment, his pupils shrank. Su Ming walked out from behind the skinny cultivator. At the speed of lightning, he lifted his right hand, and the four great true world's wills, along with his power of Tao spirit realm, fused together and were channeled to his finger. It contained power beyond compare. The instant the skinny cultivator's expression changed, he turned around and swung his arm. Su Ming's finger came into contact with him at that moment. Booming sounds rose into the air again, and blood trickled down his lips. He moved swiftly backwards. As for the skinny cultivator, he took a step forward, intending to give chase, but Su Ming instantly disappeared, and when he reappeared, he was already standing in the courtyard. The skinny cultivator lowered his head and cast a glance at his left hand. There was a bloody hole in it and a presence that even he found hard to handle. That presence spread to his entire body through his flesh and blood. Even though you used the rune in this area to help you, you should still be proud for being able to hurt me with just the power of Tao spirit realm. The skinny cultivator's expression was dark. To him, such an injury was nothing, even though he still felt that the presence left behind was strange. However, he was confident that he could chase it out of his body. It was the fact that he had been injured before his fellow sect member what caused him to be angry. Because of his cautious personality, Su Ming had laid out quite a number of runes and killing moves in the courtyard where he lived. Once anyone stepped into it, then with one thought, Su Ming could activate those runes and killing moves. Su Ming stood calmly in the courtyard. His face was pale, but when he lifted his head to look at the skinny cultivator, fighting spirit shone in his eyes. He flicked his right wrist slightly, and immediately, the rain in the courtyard turned into white smoke. The next moment, all the sand in the courtyard began trembling. If you want to fight, then fight. If you don't want to, then get lost. Why bother spewing nonsense? When Su Ming said those words coldly, the white fog formed by the rain in the courtyard instantly curled into the sky to form a circular rune. The moment it appeared, it began rotating swiftly. Booming sounds echoed, and Su Ming seized the air in the direction of the ground with his right hand. Immediately, an innumerable amount of sand flew up. When Su Ming brought his hand up, each grain of sand charged into the sky with the brand Su Ming had left over the course of a couple months. As expected, you are still too weak, the skinny cultivator said indifferently while looking very calm, but in truth, his pupils had already shrunken, and that alone was a telling sign of the shock in his heart. However, because he believed that his level of cultivation was slightly higher and there were other people watching, he had to keep his expression full of indifference while hiding the wariness in his heart. He could not ruin his own reputation. As he spoke, the skinny cultivator lifted his right hand. When he formed a seal, he pushed down at the ground. Booming sounds immediately reverberated through the air. A crack seemed to have been torn through the sky above him, and a hint of gold descended. It turned into a large golden seal that charged to the ground. When the golden mark descended, a loud bang shot up. The white fog around the skinny cultivator instantly dissipated. When the seal pushed down again, the sand was crushed, but right then, Su Ming had already activated another killing move. When he lifted his right hand, the reversed spirit pearl shone. A huge wave of power immediately spread out from the pearl. In the blink of an eye, it enveloped the skinny cultivator, making his expression change, but soon, it returned to that of calm. He still let out a cold harumph. With a step forward, he moved to attack, but the reversed spirit pearl shone again, and this time, a powerful rebound rose from it with a bang, forcing the skinny cultivator to take a few steps back. His pupils shrank, and when he cast a closer look at the reverse spirit pearl, his expression suddenly changed. This is Phala of Tao verification. Almost the instant the skinny cultivator said those words, the rather plump cultivator who had been watching the fight with a smile while sitting on the roof suddenly focused. With his level of cultivation, even he could not stop the hint of greed that appeared in his eyes. Without another word, he took a step forward and charged toward Su Ming. At that moment, the skinny cultivator let out a sigh of relief in his heart. He had intentionally said those words because Su Ming had given him quite a lot of pressure, but due to his pride and dignity, he had to remain calm. However, once he recognized the pearl, he immediately revealed its origin so the other person would attack and help him out of the troublesome situation. When using the runes, the traps he laid out, the reversed spirit pearl, which had quite the extraordinary power, his cultivation base, and his will to fight against a Tao paragon, he was able to fight against him. but if two Dao paragons attacked, then it would be difficult for him to survive. When he saw that he was about to be forced into a corner and die, a dry cough came from the house. "See, I told you to get 2 dogs from the west of the village to act as guard dogs, and look, my words came true. I told you that there will be thieves who will come to steal our axe. It is the most valuable thing in our house right now, you know? Why you? Pick up the axe. If anyone steals it, I'll fight tooth and nail against you." After hearing that speech, the 2 Dao paragons were stunned. They had not expected that a mortal would hide in his house to watch the battle of arts, and what was more, once he saw it, he even spoke and called them thieves. A glint shone in Su Ming's eyes. He seemed to have come to understand something. He lifted his right hand and seized the air in the direction of the axe that was not far from him. The axe instantly flew into his hand. Su Ming lifted his head and looked at the 2 cultivators, and his heart suddenly shuddered. For some reason, what he saw seemed to no longer be cultivators, but 2 logs of wood. Chapter 1422. 2 large white dogs. When Su Ming came to an understanding, he lifted the axe with his right hand. Just like how he had been chopping wood while staying in the old man's courtyard, he fixed his gaze on the skinny cultivator and swung the axe down in his direction. Su Ming did so with a calm heart. Not a single flicker of emotion could be detected on his face, which made it seem like all his consciousness had fused into the axe. When it fell, the world instantly let out a loud bang as if the sky had crumbled. The slightly plump cultivator who had rushed in to grab the reversed spirit pearl could not stop his eyes from shrinking. At the instant a hint of shock appeared in his gaze, he pulled back without any hesitation. The skinny cultivator, whom Su Ming had targeted, did not have the time, and all his hair stood up on end. An overwhelming feeling that he was about to die rose in him. It came so suddenly that he found it improbable and even impossible. Such a sense of danger should have never come from the 3rd prince, who was only in Dao spirit realm. However, he did not have time to think about it, as he wasn't even capable of dodging the attack. A shrill scream of pain tumbled out from his mouth, and his right arm was instantly separated from his body. Blood gushed out, which shocked the rather plump cultivator, and the expression of the skinny cultivator changed as well. He swiftly fell back. When he looked at Su Ming, his face was full of terror, but soon, his gaze landed on the axe in Su Ming's hand. The rather plump cultivator also immediately reacted to the situation and stared at the axe in Su Ming's hand. Why you? Is there anyone in the world who cuts wood like this? Ah! You seriously make me so mad. At that moment, the door to the house was pushed open, and the old man in the jacket stormed out. He did not even look at the 2 powerful cultivators in the sky and walked straight to Su Ming before grabbing the axe from his hand. What a waste of a good dog leg. What a waste. Seriously. Watch me, I'll teach you one more time. You have to cut wood like this. The old man glared at Su Ming, then lifted the axe with his right hand. At the instant the plump and skinny cultivator's eyes shrank, he brought the axe down. The sky seemed to stop to exist at that moment. It became murky, as if it contained countless shrill roars. The ground was no longer around as well, but had turned into the abyss. At the moment the sky and ground descended into chaos, the skinny cultivator's expression filled with more terror than he had ever felt in his life. The shock he experienced was able to submerge his whole being. He shuddered, and absolute terror appeared in his eyes. Su Ming could also see that when the old man lifted his axe, an indescribable presence seemed to have been added to the world. Su Ming was familiar with it since it was the power of wills he thought no one in ancient Zong possessed. The power of that will was so great that it surpassed Su Ming's by leaps and bounds. At the moment it appeared and enveloped the skinny cultivator, an object no one could see except for those who possessed the power of wills manifested around the skinny cultivator. It was a round life matrix formed by wisps of white smoke, and it was as complicated as a rune. The life matrix was filled with runic symbols, and each one signified one of the skinny cultivator's memories. At the moment the life matrix appeared, the old man's axe swung down. What he cut was not the skinny cultivator's body, but his life matrix. There were no loud bangs nor astonishingly brilliant sparks. It was a simple swing, but it managed to cut through the skinny cultivator's life matrix and crushed all the runic symbols in it, which forced the life matrix to reassemble itself instant. It distorted, and when the old man completed his swing, it vanished from above the skinny cultivator's head. The next moment, the skinny cultivator shuddered, and his body contorted as well. With an expression of disbelief and indescribable terror, he tried to scream in pain, but his voice seemed to be stuck in his throat, and then, he plunged to the ground. His body twisted on the ground, his clothes fell off, and he turned into a white dog. It barked, releasing a sound which seemed to have been suppressed for a long time. Once the sound was made, Su Ming saw great terror in the white dog's eyes, and it was even quivering. The white dog had only 3 legs. At that moment, the terror the rather plump cultivator in the sky felt was much stronger than what the white dog experienced. As he trembled, he swiftly fell back, intending to flee regardless of all costs. He had not expected that such a powerful warrior which could leave him stunned would exist in a small mortal village. In his eyes, the old man was so strong that he was surely a great Tao paragon. However, he could not wrap his head around something. The great Tao paragons in his sect did not seem to have divine abilities which could turn people into animals. With his level of cultivation, he could tell at first glance that it was no ordinary illusion. In fact, it was not an illusion at all, but a transformation stemming from a person's origin. The skinny cultivator had turned into an animal from the core of his being. It was the source of the plump man's fear. At that moment, he no longer harbored any greed towards Su Ming's enchanted treasures, and neither did he have any sort of intention to kill him. The only thought he had right then was to run away at any cost. As he charged forth, he tore through the air and took half a step out of the village. See it now? That's what cutting wood is. Heh, see how great I am now? The old man actually stuck his chin out. When he lifted the axe with his right hand, he swiftly cut down on the rather plump cultivator who was about to disappear into the distance. We can't have this fat dog run away now. It has to stay and guard the house. When we're hungry, we can use it as a snack, right? While the old man spoke, the cultivator who had already rushed away experienced a full body jolt, and he instantly fell back into the courtyard. As his body twisted, he moaned, and he turned into a large white dog. He shuddered, and when he looked at the old man, fear appeared in his eyes. It was stronger than anything he had felt before. Do you see it? You don't see it, right? No, you saw it, right? The old man chattered on and pointed at the 2 white dogs. When he looked at Su Ming at the end, his expression grew serious. This is what it means to cut wood. Heh, you have to know that there are plenty of people who would lick my toes in ancient Zong just to learn how to cut for a day at my place. If it weren't for that little boy Gu taking me to all sorts of brothels in the past and me enjoying a very comfortable life while I was there, I wouldn't have helped him. Remember this. When you cut wood, just swing down. If you stare at wood, then what you cut will be wood, but if you don't look at it, then perhaps what you cut will not be wood. Arth. It's too complicated. I've never taken any disciples in my life, and I've never taught anyone before. Figure it out yourself slowly. Remember this, there are 3 states when cutting wood. The first of the 3 states is to cut people, the second is to cut logs, and the third is to cut all the logs and people who piss you off. The old man scratched his head. After chattering for a good half of the day, even he felt that his words were unclear, which was why he decided to just throw the axe on the ground and turn around to walk into the house. Just as he was about to step into the house, he suddenly stopped and turned his head slightly so that his side profile was directed at Su Ming. He seemed to be different again. It looked as if he had lost some of his cynicism and had more of the marks of time. Su Ming, he said slowly, and there was something old in his voice. Su Ming had already gained some understanding from the old man's words just then. He then lifted his head and looked at the old man. Give these 2 dogs names. If either of them acts funny, kill it and we'll have dog soup tomorrow. Once he finished speaking, the old man walked into his house with a dark look on his face. The pitter-pattering sounds of rain were back in the courtyard. The 2 white dogs shuddered in the rain. Su Ming ignored the 2 dogs. Instead, he picked up the axe and returned to the shed. He stared at the axe, and a contemplative look appeared in his eyes. His expression was calm, but in truth, a huge storm raged in his heart. He had never doubted the old man's power before, but he had never expected his act of cutting wood to have reached such an astonishing level. This already surpassed all divine abilities. Cutting life matrices. Su Ming's eyes shone. He could not forget all that he had seen. In fact, in his eyes, it was no longer something a cultivator could do. It had already become a serendipity for him. Serendipity. Su Ming mumbled. His gaze fell on the 2 white dogs in the courtyard. In silence, he lifted his right hand, and immediately, the 2 white dogs' clothes and storage bags flew to him. You're white 1. Su Ming pointed at the rather plump white dog. You're white 3. His gaze landed on the 3-legged white dog. The 2 dogs were silent, and grief appeared on their faces. Besides trembling in the rain, they seemed to be unable to do anything else. After they were turned into animals, all their cultivation bases had been sealed. Even if they were still alive, they would have been better off dead. The humiliation and the terror filled the 2 white dogs with indignation while their faces were full of sadness. They were not dogs. They were cultivators. They were sect elders of one Dao sect, Dao Paragons. They could command the wind and rain in ancient Zong. They could even stand at the top of the world, but right then, they were unable to accept the sudden change in their station. Even if you want to die, you can't die. I believe that I have a way to make you become guard dogs even in your next life. If you are loyal, however, I might, after a period of time, ask the old man to be merciful and let you have a chance to be cultivators again, Su Ming said flatly. I will let you think for the night. Once he finished speaking, he lowered his head and looked at the axe in his hand before sinking into contemplative silence. Chapter 1423. You're looking down on me. The rain slowly came to a stop when morning arrived. When the sun rose, Su Ming came out of his contemplation. Once he lifted his head, he saw the 2 white dogs wagging their tails while staring at him with pitiful expressions. Clearly, with the intellect possessed by the 2 people formerly cultivators, they could not accept dying in such a manner. Even if there was only the slightest hint of possibility, they did not want to give up on hope. Su Ming's expression remained the same, but he was laughing coldly in his heart. He was never one to be merciful to his enemies, but he did not lie to them the previous night either. However, whether or not it could become true would entirely depend on the 2 white dogs' future performance. White 1, white 3, let's go. Su Ming stood up and walked to the courtyard's door. Once he pushed it open, he walked out. The 2 white dogs quickly followed behind him, especially the 3-legged dog. When it ran, it was not any slower than white 1. Just like what he had done over the past few months, Su Ming went to the western side of the village and got a pot of wine for the old man. On his way, he ran into quite a number of villagers, and all of them smiled at him. They waved at him and were also very interested in the 2 white dogs behind him. It was especially so for the children. They surrounded the 2 white dogs and regarded the 3-legged dog with great curiosity, wondering why it could run so fast. When Su Ming returned to the courtyard, the children outside dispersed while laughing and still brimming with curiosity. Clearly, they intended to tell all that they saw to their parents. Once he closed the door, Su Ming placed the pot of wine beside the door to the house, then suddenly frowned and turned his head to look at the 2 white dogs. You were once cultivators and practiced in India, right? You don't need to eat, do you? The 2 white dogs became even more indignant, but they nodded. Su Ming did not say more. He picked up the axe and sat down on the stump before beginning his daily task of chopping wood. Every single time he lifted the axe, the white dogs would shudder. They could not recover from the trauma so soon. It would remain for a long time. Banging sounds echoed in the village in the morning, and all the villagers knew that the young man named Su Ming had begun chopping wood again. When morning was over and noon was nigh, the door to the house was pushed open, and the old man walked out in his jacket while stretching. The moment the 2 dogs saw him, they were so scared that their tails dropped between their legs. They ran to Su Ming's side as if he was much gentler than the old man. The old man was definitely the most terrifying existence in the entire world to them. Ha ha! Sleeping early and waking up early is good for you. Waking up naturally is good for you. Drinking after you wake up is good for you. The old man picked up the pot of wine and walked into the courtyard. He looked at the sun hanging high in the sky and spoke loudly. Eating dog meat after drinking is good for you. The old man's eyes sparkled as he stared at the 2 large dogs beside Su Ming's feet. His gaze flickered between the 2 of them as if he was wondering which he should eat on that day. Su Ming, which dog should we eat today? The old man strode forward, then squatted down and stared at the two big dogs. He gulped. Su Ming did not pay any attention to the old man. He continued chopping wood seriously. In his mind was the endless repetition of the old man's two swings from the night before. When the old man saw that Su Ming was ignoring him, he lifted his head in surprise, went to stand in front of Su Ming, then squatted down and shouted at him. "Wake up!" Su Ming scowled. He could handle the old man's strange personality, but he still found it hard to get used to the moments when the old man would occasionally shout as if he was off his rockers. It was especially so when he was immersed in a state of trying to gain an epiphany. The old man's shouts instantly snapped him out of his immersion. "Boy, your comprehension level is too high. When have you ever seen me daydreaming when I chop wood? I am always awake when I swing my axe. Stop thinking about all these understandings, epiphanies, and enlightenments. Aren't you tired constantly trying to understand all that crap? Don't try to comprehend everything while running around like a headless chicken. If you chop wood, then chop wood. Don't let your mind wander. Be serious. Don't think of anything else in your head. Just cut wood seriously." The old man's expression grew stern then, and he spoke in a grave voice. "All right, let's talk about something more serious. Say, which dog should we eat today? I don't think that we should eat them for now. After all, we need dogs to watch the house for us." Over the months, Su Ming had learned how to communicate with the old man. At that moment, he too had a stern expression on his face. He had even mulled over the matter before answering seriously. As expected, when Su Ming spoke with a serious expression, the old man scrutinized the two big white dogs while maintaining his own serious expression. The two white dogs quaked in their paws as he stroked his beard as if thinking about Su Ming's words. "Yes. You're right, you're very right, you're incredibly right, you're absolutely right." After mulling over it for a very long time, the old man nodded sternly. The moment he said that, the two white dogs released a sigh of relief. When they looked at Su Ming, their faces were full of gratitude. "But I want to eat," the old man said the next moment while looking at Su Ming. Because of it, the two white dogs became nervous again. They suddenly felt that the old man was a madman while Su Ming was still somewhat normal. Su Ming thought about it seriously again before he answered gravely. "You'll get your chance. There should be quite a number of white dogs coming over in the future. At that time, we can rear more, and you can eat whichever one you like." Once the old man heard it, he immediately became excited, but he forced it down and put on a serious face again. Then, as if he had thought about it long and hard, he nodded. "Yes, you're right, you're very right, you're incredibly right, you're absolutely right." The old man rubbed his hands, but soon, he looked as if he was about to cry. "But I still want to eat." The two white dogs practically descended into despair. They lay on the ground shuddering as if they had lost the courage to even run. They could only hope that Su Ming could help them. Su Ming fell silent, then picked up the axe and stopped bothering with the old man. He began cutting wood once more. This time, he did not try to gain an epiphany and neither did he pay attention to how he struck down. Instead, he casually brought the axe down and repeatedly chopped wood. Why aren't you talking? How could you ignore this old man? You're actually not speaking? I'm telling you, I'm about to get mad. Just try and continue keeping quiet. Every single time the old man spoke, he would change his position. When he said his last sentence, White 3 was right in front of him. It was sent flying with a kick, and the old man looked at Su Ming sternly. But Su Ming still had no intention to speak and just continued to chop wood. Upon seeing that, the old man rolled his eyes, lifted his right hand, then placed it on the log. When Su Ming's axe fell, he quickly pulled his hand away. After repeating this act several times, the old man began laughing out loud. Su Ming was already used to it. Even though it did not happen every single day, but once every few days, the old man would fool around like that beside him, and he would always look very happy about it. But that day was clearly different. The old man seized White One's tail just when it was about to leave quietly, wrapped his arms around it, then placed it on the log. When Su Ming's axe fell, he quickly pulled White One away. Su Ming's expression remained the same, but the old man had a lot of fun doing it anyway. The white dog, however, was faced with multiple life and death instances, and every single time, its heart trembled. When dusk arrived, the old man laughed loudly, then threw the white dog aside after it had experienced an entire afternoon of life and death situations and had gotten numb to everything in life. He stood up and stretched his back. Ah, how boring, so boring. Su Ming. Go and get a girl for me tomorrow. I want one with a big rump. The old man's expression became serious again when he gave his instructions to Su Ming. When he said those words, the trajectory of Su Ming's axe went askew, and the axe cut the side of the log, slicing off a layer of wood scraps. Su Ming lifted his head and looked at the old man with a strange expression. He had just heard the most bizarre request since he had come to stay at the old man's place. "Ha! What's with your expression? Why you're looking down on me." When the old man saw Su Ming's expression, he immediately jumped up and shouted loudly in exasperation and fluster. "You're looking down on me. You're going overboard. I'm also a man, you know." "A man? What's wrong with me going to a girl? Is my request bad now?" "No. My request isn't bad at all. I want a girl with a big rump." A moment ago, the old man had been exasperated, but the next one, his eyes began glowing. By the way, do you like girls with big rumps? The old man squatted down and stared at Su Ming while quivering in high spirits. Su Ming remained quiet. "Hey, why aren't you speaking again? Why you? If you still keep quiet, then you'll have to find me 3 girls with big rumps." Su Ming sighed softly. "Senior, if you do this, then there will be no one to cut wood for you." Why? Forget about that. You still haven't answered me. Do you like girls with big rumps? The old man seemed to have found squatting down to be too tiring and grabbed the 3-legged white 3 before sitting on it. Then, he quickly looked at Su Ming while waiting for his answer. Su Ming remained silent. 3 women's figures appeared in his mind. After a long while, he shook his head, but no matter how he did so, he could not shake off the grief that filled his heart when old memories filled his mind. The old man seemed to have noticed his sadness, and he fell silent as well. After some time, Su Ming lifted his axe and continued cutting wood. Hud, hud, hud. The sounds echoed in the air. They traveled out of the courtyard and resounded in the village. It also landed in the ears of a woman who was strolling under the setting sun. She was dressed in a Daoist robe. She might already be middle-aged, but she still had a charm about her. When she walked, her expression was calm, but when she passed the villagers, they ignored her as if they could not see her. Her wide Daoist robes covered her body, but when she moved, the grace of her walk allowed others to see that the body under the Daoist robe possessed beautiful curves that would cause others to sigh in wonder. Chapter 1424. Miss, I love you. Since the 2 cultivators had found their way to him the night before, Su Ming knew that from then on that his life would no longer be peaceful. Be it one Dao sect or a Jura clan, those who searched for him due to the appearance of his 9th voice would come one after another. Perhaps it was precisely what Gu Tai hoped for, because at that moment, Su Ming could be said to be located at one of the safest places in ancient Zong. The old man in the house within the courtyard also left Su Ming sometimes not knowing what to say in regards to his personality or his words. Because of that, he actually hoped for the people who wanted to kill him to arrive as quickly as possible so that he could experience just how powerful the old man was. The loud thuds of wood being cut echoed in the courtyard. Gradually, in the evening sky, a cold air appeared, even though temperature should be warm since it was summer. Snow floated down from the sky, and the snowflakes were filled with glittering light. When they fell, they landed on the 2 white dogs, Su Ming, and the tip of the old man's nose. The old man shuddered, then lowered his head to mumble under his breath. A fierce glare lit up in Su Ming's eyes. The snowflakes were not naturally formed, which was a telling sign that they had a visitor. It was especially so for the 2 white dogs. They were shuddering at that moment while looking at the door to the courtyard. "You're distracted again." The old man went up to slap Su Ming's head. With it, the fierce glare in Su Ming's eyes disappeared. "Keep your mind on chopping wood. Stop constantly being distracted by the changes in the world outside. Chopping wood itself is a field of study. I've chopped wood for most of my life. You. The time you were exposed to it is still too short. The old man assumed an air of self-importance due to his age, then bent his body a little while tightening his jacket around his body. He lifted his head and stared at the snow floating down before he grinned. Ha ha, this snow fell at the perfect moment. I love watching snow the most. Su Ming did not say anything. He did not ponder over the old man's words carefully, but instead shut his eyes. Soon, he opened them, and his eyes were calm. However, they were also incredibly dull, as if Su Ming had become incredibly listless at that moment, and there was nothing eye-catching about him. It was as if he had become a real young mortal. He lifted the axe and continued chopping wood. The old man skipped about in the courtyard while patting the falling snow and enjoying himself very much. As for the two white dogs, they were at full guard while they glared at the door to the courtyard. Grave looks appeared on their faces, and they even instinctively let out whining sounds that sounded nearly like threats. Su Ming still had his head bent while he continued chopping wood. He remembered how the old man had acted this way when he showed him how to cut wood after Jiu Tai left. He had his head bent while he cut wood and had not made a sound after he was tired of asking Su Ming whether he understood what he was doing. Soon after, knocking sounds came from the door to the courtyard. Hud hud, hud hud. They were very rhythmic and calming, but once they entered the courtyard, the two white dogs began to whine even louder. Ham. Go and open the door. Didn't you hear that someone's knocking on the door? Go and take a look at who it is. While swatting at the snow, the old man turned his head around. Su Ming looked up and put down the axe. He was still expressionless, and his eyes were still dull. He walked to the door, and once he opened it, he saw a middle-aged woman dressed in a large daoist robe standing outside. She was very beautiful, and when her gaze fell on Su Ming, she smiled faintly. Su Ming swept his gaze past the beautiful woman, then asked with a frown, "Who are you looking for?" "For you." The woman smiled faintly. Before Su Ming could say anything, she walked past him and stepped into the courtyard. The old man who was swatting at snow suddenly stopped moving and stared at the woman in a daze. He even drooled. But he soon calmed down and quickly ran into the house. The woman's smile grew wider due to the old man's antics. To her, the old man was just an ordinary mortal, and there was nothing special about him. She was also confident in her looks and did not mind that a mortal old man had been enchanted by her appearance. However, she was slightly curious as to why the old man would suddenly run into his own house. But this matter was too trivial. The woman cast a glance at the courtyard, and when her gaze landed on the two white dogs, she did not manage to see anything wrong about them either. Her gaze then returned to Su Ming. "So, you're the third prince? You really made us look for you by hiding in this place. It is quite extraordinary. The mountains surrounding this place form a natural rune, and no divine senses can search through here. There is also a pattern here that hides away life matrices. If your level of cultivation isn't high enough, it won't let you see this place." The woman only cast a glance at the area before she found what was wrong with it. With her level of cultivation, she could see some things, but only those that made a hole. "You even placed runes in the courtyard?" They're rather jumbled. Someone should have come here before me recently. Judging by these presences. The woman opened her eyes slightly and smiled lightly. "They're two Dao paragons. Looks like I truly didn't underestimate this place. 4-7 moons sect to be able to do this. Jiu Tai should have been the one in charge of this." The feeling the woman gave off because of her words made it seem that she was equals with Jiu Tai. This showed that based on her level of cultivation, she was definitely not a Dao paragon. Her divine sense spread out swiftly, and she frowned. Just as she was about to speak, Su Ming sat down on the stump again. He picked up the axe and continued chopping wood. "Boy, you're quite the interesting one." The woman looked at Su Ming, then smiled even more happily. When she approached him, she bent down slightly to reveal the beautiful curves of her waist and hips under the daoist robe. "I haven't introduced myself. My name is Ji Wu Meng, and I'm a great sect elder of Azura clan, Immortal Qing Han. Third prince, would you be interested in coming to train in Azura clan?" The woman's smile was incredibly good, and her fair skin filled her face with an air that could make others' heart race. But Su Ming's expression remained gloomy as he continued cutting firewood. The woman's smile stayed. At the instant she stood up, the door to the house was suddenly pushed open, and out came a figure dressed in a green scholarly robe that was clearly slightly too large for it. The man had a scholar's hat while his hair was messily spread over his shoulder. In his hand, he held a fan that was clearly broken and damaged. That person was the old man. He had returned to the house and used his fastest speed to change his clothes. At that moment, with the fan in hand, he took a few steps forward. A few fake coughs left his mouth as he gazed at the woman with excitement and eagerness. "Miss, a good day to you." Su Ming's axe came to a screeching halt. He had to admit that all his composure shattered at the moment the old man said those words. The woman beside him was also stunned, but soon, she covered her mouth and chuckled. When she examined the old man's clothes and appearance, her smile went even to her eyes, which turned them crescent-shaped. "Miss, don't laugh. I like ladies with big rumps the most. Stop standing in front of my disciple. That boy doesn't like girls with big rumps, but I do." The old man spread his fan open to reveal that it had oil stains on it. He lifted his head and shifted his expression to one that he believed was very elegant. The night is decorated with flowers and silk, and there is snow floating down. It's a perfect night for dates with girls with big rumps. "Miss, let's engage in a passionate love that can be made into a ballad and bring others to tears in this courtyard with the starry sky as our blanket and the ground as our bed. Miss, I love you." The old man had a passionate look on his face. He took a few brisk steps forward and appeared right in front of the beautiful woman who could now no longer chuckle and was completely stunned. Ji Wu Meng, huh? It's a good name, a very good name. Immortal Qing Han? This name is not good. Qing Han, it means to be pure coldness. This is a rotten name only for those who don't have big rumps. You should be known as Immortal Big Rump. That's right, this is a good name. Su Ming, what do you think of this name? The old man asked excitedly. Su Ming was silent. He lifted the axe and continued cutting wood. He suddenly realized that when the old man said he wanted 2 dogs the previous night, 2 dogs had truly appeared. Earlier in the day, he had mentioned that he wanted a woman with a big rump, and Immortal Qing Han had really arrived. The eyes of Ji Wu Meng shone with a chilling glare, but a smile slowly appeared at the corners of her lips as she stared at the old man. To her, he was an old mortal who did not have even an ounce of power, and unless he was someone driven by lust, he would definitely not do something so outrageous. "Third Prince, is this person sent by 7 Moons sect to protect you?" The iciness of Immortal Qing Han's smile grew stronger. "Hey, Miss Big Rump, could you stop talking to him? I'll get jealous," the old man said seriously. The moment he finished speaking, Immortal Qing Han lifted her right hand, and with one swing of her arm, the mighty pressure belonging to great Tao paragons enveloped the place, freezing the world. Waves of cold air spread out in every direction, and snowflakes fell, covering the entire world. But her expression changed the next moment. The old man had already grabbed her right hand and was fondling it with a sleazy look on his face. "You!" The woman was shocked into disbelief. With her level of cultivation, there were less than 20 people who could grab her hand while she cast her arts, yet the old man before her had easily grabbed her right hand as if she had been doing nothing. Just as he was about to retreat, she found that her whole body had gone numb. She did not notice that the 2 white dogs not far from her in the courtyard were watching her while giggling at her misfortune. "Senior." The woman's face was pale as she fearfully looked at the old man holding her right hand. "Hush." The old man placed his finger on his lips and stared at the woman seriously while he touched her hand. With great excitement, his hand slowly moved upwards, and he asked with a very stern voice, "Is your rump big?" Su Ming had his axe held high, but it came to a screeching halt again. He sighed and no longer paid any attention to the things around him, but instead focused on chopping wood. He felt that the old man's bizarreness was one that very few people in ancient Zong would be able to stop. "Ha! Why aren't you speaking? Why are you looking down on me?" The old man was immediately red with rage and began shouting. The woman's face turned paler, and the terror in her eyes became stronger. She could clearly sense her cultivation base being sucked away by the old man, and the speed of it grew even faster when he became angry. Her cultivation base was sucked away with each passing moment. Chapter 1425. Profound meaning not big. The woman could no longer keep her dignity. The feeling the old man gave off brought her incredible terror, and she could not help but think of a legend. It said that there were 3 ninth-level Tao gods in ancient Zhong. One of them was the emperor, and he had a great will that the world had to worship. With his blood of the royal family coursing through his veins and his inheritance, he was particular towards granting infinite royal graciousness to win all fights without even fighting. The woman was also not unfamiliar with the second of the 9th-level Tao gods, because he was the supreme progenitor of the Azura clan Xianxia Luo. With a supreme and domineering air, he made the world bow to him and all lives respect him. The will of his Tao dominated one of the peaks of Azura clan. The last of the 3 9th-level Tao gods was someone whose name was unknown, but as one of the great sect elders of Azura clan, the woman had once seen progenitor Xianxia Luo and listened to his lectures about Tao. She knew of some secrets that no one else knew, such as the name of the 3rd 9th-level Tao god. He was Jiyu Hong. He was always alone, had a strange personality, and was temperamental like the ever-changing clouds. He was very different compared to the emperor and Xianxia Luo and lived a licentious life. In fact, when progenitor Xianxia Luo spoke of him, he could never keep his calm, and his emotions would stir slightly. He only had one sentence to describe the 3rd 9th-level Tao god: extremely shameless. At that moment, while Ji Wu Meng felt trembled and her heart filled with fear, the name progenitor Xianxia Luo once mentioned before appeared in her mind. It was Tao god Jiyu Hong, who had an equal status to Tao god Jiyu Di and Tao god Xianxia Luo. Not big. The old man was stunned. He blinked. Doubt appeared on his face, and when he asked that question, he extended his left hand and put it into the woman's daoist robe in an incredibly sleazy manner to grope her posterior. His eyes immediately turned big, as if he had touched something unbelievable. Why you? How dare you lie to me? No, I mean 'em. I'll know whether you're lying or not by touching you a few more times. Heh, don't even think about lying to me. The old man had been about to erupt in rage when he thought of a better solution, and his eyes suddenly shone. He quickly let out a few fake coughs and groped the woman a few more times with his hand in her daoist robe. The woman could no longer care about being embarrassed. When someone reached her age, they would have already experienced many things. It was not that she was not averse to this, but that even if she was averse to this, she had to know when she could show her aversion. She had already formed an assumption of the old man's identity, and the terror in her heart made her forget to fight back. In fact, she did not even want to fight back. How dare you try to lie to me again? But I'm a reasonable person. How about this? I'll look into this further to see whether you're lying to me. The old man groped her a few more times with a serious and contemplative expression on his face. I can't feel it. I must be old now. No can do. To let you gain a clean record as a woman with a big rump, I must investigate this matter closely. While the old man was having a good time, Su Ming automatically blocked out all his words. No matter how the old man decided to fool around, it had nothing to do with him. He only lifted the axe again and again, and every single time the axe fell, he would split the firewood in half. When the time it takes for another incense stick to burn passed, red appeared on the woman's face, and only then did the old man pull his hand out from her daoist robe with great reluctance. He glared at her as if fire was raging in his eyes.
Damn it, you again.
Can that even be called a small rump? Is that even logical? Is that even rational? Oh heavens, the sun is watching from the sky. How dare you say your rump is small? The old man's rage burned to the high heavens, and as he spoke, he pointed at the sky. But right then, the sky was dark. The sky could not be seen and even less so the sun, but the old man clearly did not care about such things. While he shouted, the woman trembled even more intensely. Most of her cultivation base had been absorbed by the old man. The feeling of numbness and weakness in her body made a pleading look appear in her eyes. She was feeling incredibly regretful, wishing that she had never come to the bizarre village to cause Su Ming trouble. She would not have run into the terrifying existence then. Just when the woman was about to continue, The old man's rage seemed to have reached its peak. He immediately started shouting at Su Ming. Su Ming, Su Ming. Stop chopping wood, you brat. Heh, how dare this girl with the big rump lie to me? She has a big rump, but she said it's small. Damn it, damn it. Could it be that my hand is too small? No, this is a very serious matter. I need a witness. Come over here. Throw that axe away and touch her. Then tell me whether it's big or small. When the old man shouted, Su Ming, who originally thought that his mind was calm, was thrown into a mess again. He froze, then turned his head around and gave a wry smile to the old man. That smile. Boy, could it be that you like girls with big rumps as well? Ha ha. Looks like the both of us are fated together. At least I didn't waste my time giving you food, drinks, and white dogs. All right, I've always been a forthright person and always honor the code of brotherhood. In the past, the little Gu Tai even. Let's not talk about the past. Little boy Su, don't worry, tonight, I will let you sleep in the house. Let's engage in a passionate love with Big Rump Girl that can be made into a ballad and can bring others to tears. The old man put on a smile that made it seem as if he understood Su Ming's thoughts and spoke in a forthright manner to him. When the woman heard it, her face went stark pale, but not much of her terror was in regards to the matter. She was only thinking of how she could flee from the old man. Su Ming was just about to explain himself to clear the old man's misunderstandings when the old man turned around and his gaze met those of the two white dogs. At that moment, the woman felt her heart thump, and her face turned ashen pale. The source of her terror had shifted to what she saw. The old man was conflicted. Hesitation appeared on his face, but clearly, he was someone who honored the code of brotherhood and was a very forthright person. At that moment, he swung his arm, and then spoke loudly with a tone that made it seem that he was completely unbothered by it, even though it was very clear that he was very bothered by it. Oh well, even those with fur will do. The two of you are in luck today. Tonight. Tonight, once we're done with making love with the girl, I'll let you two have a taste of what love feels like as well. Senior Jiu Hong. The terror on the woman's face became even stronger. In her anxiety, she screamed shrilly. She believed that with the old man's status and level of cultivation, since he could say those words, he would definitely do as he said. What did you say? What did you call me? Damn it. This is a secret. Why you? I am indeed Jiu Hong, but this is a secret. I'm mad. I'm really mad. Su Ming, come over here and verify it. Tell me whether her rump is big. There seemed to be white smoke curling up from the old man's head. Red appeared in his eyes. When he looked at Su Ming, his expression said that if Su Ming did not grope her, he would erupt in rage and believe that Su Ming was looking down on him. Su Ming was silent, but soon, he smiled faintly. The next moment, it disappeared, and his expression turned into one of indifference. He swept his gaze past the woman, then spoke languidly. It's just like you have said, Senior. This female cultivator is indeed lying. You know even without touching her? The old man looked at Su Ming with a skeptical gaze. I have lived long enough to have reached a state where I can tell even without touching. This is something you will need to practice more, Senior. Su Ming had a relaxed look on his face as he spoke. The old man was dazed upon hearing his words. After a long while, his gaze suddenly filled with more enthusiasm than ever before. He stared at Su Ming as if he was looking at a kindred spirit. Could you tell me how you managed to do it? Teach me, come on. We could also do an exchange. I have quite some good stuff with me, even some incantations, but they're all jumbled up, the old man said quickly. You can only sense it. It cannot be taught by words. You're right, you're very right, you're incredibly right, you're absolutely. Darn you. That's just bullshit. You're toying with me. The old man was about to nod instinctively, but when he was halfway through his words, he reacted to the situation, and he immediately felt himself burning with rage. Su Ming lifted his eyebrows, and his gaze instantly turned fierce. When his eyes landed on the woman, he took a few breaths and began to speak. She has practiced cultivation for 38,792 years, and she lost her virginity when she was 39 years old. She had 19 husbands in her life, and her posterior is the size of 4 palms. Su Ming's expression was very calm, but when he spoke, the old man's face filled with shock. "You're lying." The woman was just about to continue, but the old man had already interrupted her with a face full of admiration. "A learned man. A wise man. I didn't expect this, little boy Su, you're a learned man. I will still have to thank you for teaching me, senior." Su Ming smiled faintly. "I wouldn't dare to guide you, we should be learning from each other. It's late now, so I won't talk to you anymore. I have to engage in a passionate love with Big Rump Girl here." The old man's eyes sparkled as he grabbed the woman's hand with great excitement and quickly ran into the house. The woman could not do anything and was dragged in after him. "Senior Jiu Hong, I am a great sect elder of Azura clan. You can't do this." "Progenitor Xianxia Luo will," the woman said swiftly, but before she could finish speaking, the old man began roaring loudly. "Damn it! Stop talking about that son of a BTCH. If I want to get a girl with a big rump, no one will dare to tell me no in ancient Zong. Even that son of a BTCH Chen Xiao Luo. It doesn't matter whether it's that son of a BTCH or that miserable old fool in the royal capital. Both of them have a family and children. I'm alone. Who will dare to offend me?" The old man's words were incredibly arrogant and conceited. With the woman in tow, he went into the house, and with a bang, he closed the door. "Hey, little boy Su, why aren't you moving? Come on in." Soon, the door to the house flew open again, and the old man looked at Su Ming with a serious look on his face. "This is your serendipity. You have to think about this properly. Do you want to come in or not?"